The fluorescent lights of the diner buzzed like dying wasps above my head, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made the coffee in my cup look more like motor oil than anything drinkable. My feet throbbed inside my worn sneakers. 8 hours of carrying trays, forcing smiles at men who looked through me like I was made of glass, pretending the weight in my belly wasn't getting heavier by the day. I pressed my palm against the small swell hidden beneath my oversized sweater, feeling the flutter that had become my only companion in this god-forsaken city. 3 months. 3 months since I'd run, since I'd disappeared into the maze of Brooklyn's forgotten neighborhoods, changing my name, dyeing my hair from honey blonde to this mousy brown that made me look perpetually exhausted. Maybe I was. Sophia, table 7 needs a refill. Marcus, my manager, didn't even look up from his crossword puzzle. He never used my real name, Emma, because he didn't know it. Nobody here did. Sophia Martinez was the ghost I'd become, the shadow of the girl who once believed in love, the girl who'd been stupid enough to fall for a monster in an expensive suit. I grabbed the coffee pot, the heat seeping through the cheap plastic handle, and made my way through the maze of cracked vinyl booths. The dinner rush had died down to just the regulars, lonely souls nursing burnt coffee and day-old pie, searching for something that existed only in the bottom of their cups. The bell above the door chimed. I didn't look up. I never looked up anymore. Looking up meant seeing faces, meant the possibility of recognition, meant the slim chance that one of his men might walk through that door and drag me back to the gilded prison I'd escaped. But something shifted in the air. It was subtle at first, the way conversations seemed to pause mid-sentence, the way the cook's radio suddenly sounded too loud, the way my skin prickled with awareness I'd spent 3 months trying to suppress. I knew that feeling. I'd lived with it for 6 months, that electric charge that announced his presence before he even spoke. The scent hit me next. Tom Ford Noir. Leather and spice and money. So out of place in this dive that it might as well have been a neon sign. My hands trembled, coffee sloshing over the rim of Mrs. Patterson's cup. Sorry, I muttered, grabbing a napkin, keeping my eyes down, always down. No harm done, sweetie. Her voice was kind, but distant. Everyone's attention had shifted to the door. I could feel him watching me. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to drop the coffee pot, sprint through the kitchen, disappear into the night. But running would draw attention. Running would confirm what I couldn't let him know. So I cleaned Mrs. Patterson's spill with steady hands that belonged to someone else, someone braver than me, and turned toward the counter. He sat in the corner booth, my breath caught in my throat like a trapped bird. Dante Moretti hadn't changed. 3 months might as well have been 3 seconds. His black suit was tailored to perfection, the kind of expensive that whispered rather than shouted, stretched across shoulders that could carry the weight of empires. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in Renaissance paintings. All sharp angles and dangerous beauty. A fallen angel who'd learned to love the fall. But it was his eyes that destroyed me, gray like storm clouds, like gunmetal, like the sky before everything goes to hell. They tracked my every movement with the patience of a predator who knows his prey has nowhere left to run. 2 men flanked him, his shadows, always his shadows. Marco with the scar across his jaw, and Luca, who smiled too much for someone who killed without hesitation. My manager approached their table, his usual gruffness replaced by something that looked like fear. Smart man. I turned away, focusing on wiping down the counter with mechanical precision. Maybe he hadn't recognized me. Maybe the hair dye and the weight loss and the exhaustion carved into my face had been enough. Maybe the brunette waitress. His voice cut through the diner's ambient noise like a blade through silk. Deep, accented with the old country his family had left 2 generations ago, but never truly abandoned. Send her over. My heart stopped. Marcus's eyes found mine across the room, confusion written plainly on his face. He didn't know. Couldn't know. To him, I was just Sophia, the quiet girl who never caused trouble, who took extra shifts, who disappeared into the background like smoke. I couldn't refuse. Refusing would raise questions, so I grabbed my notepad, pressed my free hand against my belly one more time, a silent promise to the life growing there, and walked toward the booth where my past sat waiting. Each step felt like moving through concrete. Up close, he was even more devastating. The harsh diner lights loved him the way they hated everyone else, casting shadows that emphasized the cruel beauty of his mouth, the aristocratic line of his nose. A thin scar ran along his left cheekbone, new since I'd left. I wondered who'd been brave enough, or stupid enough to put it there. I wondered if they were still alive. "What can I get you?" My voice came out steady, another small miracle. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, those gray eyes traveled over my face with the thoroughness of someone conducting an investigation. I felt stripped bare, every secret exposed, every lie transparent as glass. Coffee. Black. He paused, his gaze dropping briefly to my chest, then back to my face. "You look familiar." My blood turned to ice water. "I have one of those faces. Do you?" It wasn't a question. His fingers drummed once against the table. A gesture I recognized, one he made when he was thinking, calculating. "How long have you worked here?" "Few months." I kept my answers short, my eyes on my notepad. "Anything else?" "Your name?" The question hung in the air between us like a loaded gun. The lie tasted like ash. "Sophia. Sophia." He repeated it slowly, as if testing the weight of it, searching for the crack in my armor. "Italian?" My father was. Another lie. Another brick in the wall between us. One of his men, Marco, leaned in and whispered something. Dante's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Suspicion? I couldn't tell anymore. 3 months ago, I could read him like a book written in my native language. Now he was a stranger wearing a familiar face. "Just the coffee, then." He dismissed me with a slight nod. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt the trap closing. I made it back to the counter on legs that barely held me, poured his coffee with hands that shook despite my best efforts. The cup rattled against the saucer. A tiny betrayal. When I returned to his table, he was on his phone, speaking in rapid Italian. I caught fragments. "Warehouse district. By morning." No witnesses. Before he noticed me and switched to English. "Grazie." He took the cup without looking at me, his attention on whatever business demanded blood and money in equal measure. I turned to leave. Wait. That single word froze me in place. "You're pregnant." It wasn't a question. My hand instinctively moved to my belly before I could stop it. Another betrayal. My body confessing what my mouth refused to admit. "That's not—" "How far along?" His voice had changed, dropped into a register that made my spine straighten with old, conditioned response. "I don't see how that's any of your business." The temperature in the booth seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marco and Luca shifted, their casual poses becoming alert. Dante set his phone down with careful precision, his full attention now locked on me like a spotlight I couldn't escape. "Answer the question." 3 months. The truth slipped out before I could stop it. Muscle memory. The way I'd always answered him, always obeyed even when every fiber of my being screamed resistance. His jaw tightened. Those gray eyes turned to steel. "Take off your sweater." "What?" "No. Now." The command in his voice bypassed my brain and went straight to my hands. I found myself clutching the hem of my sweater, fighting the ingrained urge to obey, to please, to submit to the man who'd owned every piece of me before I'd found the courage to run. "I'm working." My voice shook. "If you want something, order it. Otherwise—" He stood. The movement was fluid, controlled, but it brought him close enough that I could smell the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with something darker. Gunpowder, perhaps, or the metallic tang of violence. He towered over me, and despite everything, despite the fear and the anger and the desperate need to protect what grew inside me, my body remembered his hands in my hair, his mouth on my throat, the way he'd whispered my real name like a prayer and a curse. "Emma." The world stopped spinning. My real name, spoken in his voice, shattered the illusion I'd built. Sophia Martinez crumbled like a sandcastle against the tide, leaving only Emma Pierce, the girl who'd loved a monster, the woman who'd stolen his child. "I don't know what you're—" His hand shot out, not touching me, but close enough that I felt the heat of his skin. He gripped the edge of my sweater and pulled it up before I could stop him. The small bump was visible now, undeniable evidence. His face transformed. Rage and something else, something that looked almost like anguish, flickered across those perfect features before the mask slammed back into place. 3 months. He repeated my words, his accent thickening. My child. No. But the denial was hollow, worthless. You ran. His voice was soft now, deadly soft. You stole from me and you ran. I didn't steal anything. You took my son. He said it with absolute certainty, as if he could see through flesh and bone to know the truth. You took what belongs to me and you hid like a thief in the night. I'm not a thief, and this baby is mine. He finished, his hand moving to my stomach before I could step back. The touch was electric, his palm spread across the swell, possessive and gentle in equal measure. And I hated my body for responding, for remembering, for wanting despite everything. Get your hand off me. You're coming home. I'm not going anywhere with you. His smile was terrible. Yes, you are, Tesoro. You and our baby. You think you can run from me? You think there's anywhere in this world I won't find you? Dante, please, I've searched every corner of this godforsaken city. 3 months of looking, of tearing apart every lead, every whisper, and here you are, serving coffee in a place that doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as you. His other hand came up to cup my face, thumb brushing across my cheekbone with devastating tenderness. Did you really think I'd let you go? You'll kill me. The words tumbled out. 3 months of fear condensed into 4 syllables. Something flickered in his eyes. Hurt, maybe, or fury. Kill you? Amore, I would burn this entire city to ash before I let anyone harm you, including yourself. The baby is mine to protect, as are you. His hand tightened on my stomach, just slightly, a reminder of his claim. You're coming home tonight. We'll discuss your indiscretion when you're safe. This isn't safe. You're not safe. No, he agreed, his mouth curving into something that might have been a smile if it held any warmth. But I'm yours. And you, Emma Pierce, are mine. Every breath, every heartbeat, every drop of blood in your veins belongs to me. The bell above the door chimed again. 3 more men entered, all wearing the same expensive suits, the same predatory grace, Dante's backup, his insurance policy against my escape. Let's go. He released me, but his hand moved to the small of my back, guiding me with inexorable pressure toward the door. My things will be collected, along with whatever pathetic existence you've built here. His voice held contempt for the diner, for my disguise, for everything I'd done to escape him. Marcus started forward, confusion giving way to concern. Sophia? You okay? Dante's men moved as one, a wall of expensive fabric and concealed weapons. She's fine. Dante answered for me, his tone brooking no argument. Aren't you, Tesoro? I looked at Marcus. Kind, clueless Marcus, who had no idea what kind of man stood in his diner, who couldn't possibly understand that intervening would mean his death. I thought about running, about screaming, about fighting. But Dante's hand pressed against my back, right where he knew I was most sensitive, and his other hand rested on my stomach, on our child, and I knew with crystalline certainty that fighting would only end in blood. I'm fine. The lie was the last gift I could give Marcus. Just tell everyone I'm sorry. Dante guided me out into the night, into the waiting black SUV that gleamed like a hearse under the streetlights. Marco held the door open, his scarred face impassive. I climbed in because I had no choice. Dante slid in beside me, close enough that our thighs touched, and the door closed with the finality of a coffin lid as the car pulled away from the diner, from my borrowed life, from the freedom I'd tasted for 3 precious months. Dante's hand found mine in the darkness. Welcome home, Amore, he whispered, bringing my knuckles to his lips. You have no idea how much I've missed you. And as the city lights blurred past the tinted windows, I felt the baby flutter inside me. A small, trapped thing, just like its mother. The penthouse smelled exactly as I remembered. Sandalwood and leather, expensive whiskey and the faint metallic tang that never quite disappeared no matter how many times the cleaners scrubbed. Blood had a way of lingering in places like this, seeping into the marble and the mahogany, becoming part of the foundation. Dante's hand remained on my lower back as he guided me through the foyer, past the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased Manhattan like a kingdom laid out for its king. The city glittered below us, oblivious to the cage I'd just been locked inside. Nothing's changed. The words escaped before I could stop them. Everything's changed. His voice was low, dangerous. You made sure of that when you left. The living room opened before us, all sleek lines and dark furniture, art worth more than most people made in a lifetime, hanging on walls the color of midnight. A fire crackled in the fireplace, because of course he'd known he was bringing me back tonight. Of course he'd prepared. Dante Moretti didn't leave anything to chance. Sit. He gestured to the leather sofa, but it wasn't a suggestion. I remained standing, my arms wrapped around my middle, protecting the swell that had given me away. How did you find me? How did I? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Tesoro, I own half this city. The other half fears me. Did you honestly think dyeing your hair and hiding in Brooklyn would be enough? You weren't looking in the right places. I was looking everywhere. He moved to the bar cart, poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a crystal tumbler. Every hospital, every clinic, every women's shelter within 100 miles. I had men watching bus stations, train terminals, airports. I froze your bank accounts, tracked your phone until you were smart enough to destroy it. He'd done all of that. Of course he had. Then why did it take 3 months? Dante took a slow sip of his drink, his eyes never leaving mine. Because you were cleverer than I gave you credit for. Cash transactions only, no digital footprint, working in places beneath my notice. His lip curled. That diner, serving degenerates and drunks. Carrying my child while you pretended to be someone else. Our child. Mine. The word cracked like a whip. You lost the right to claim otherwise when you ran. The baby kicked, as if in protest. I pressed my hand against the spot, feeling the tiny rebellion beneath my palm. I had reasons. Reasons. Dante set his glass down with careful control. But I saw the rage simmering beneath his polished exterior. Enlighten me, Emma. What possible reason could justify stealing my heir and disappearing in the middle of the night? You killed him. The accusation tore from my throat. 3 months of silence breaking like a dam. Marco told me, before I left. He told me what you did to Tommy. Dante's expression didn't change, but something dark flickered behind his eyes. Your ex-boyfriend had a name? Don't. My voice shook. Don't pretend you don't remember. He came to me, Dante, 2 days before I left. He was terrified, said he needed money to run because he'd stolen from you. He said you were going to kill him. He was right to be terrified. Dante's voice was ice. He stole $50,000 from one of my shipments. Did he mention that part when he was crying to you? He said it was a mistake. A mistake. Dante moved toward me with predatory grace. Each step measured, controlled. He skimmed from my operation for 6 months before I caught him. 6 months of thinking he was smarter than me, that I wouldn't notice money disappearing from my own warehouses. I backed up until my legs hit the sofa. You didn't have to kill him. Yes, I did. He loomed over me now, close enough that I could see the new scar on his face more clearly. A thin white line that somehow made him more dangerous, more beautiful. In my world, theft is betrayal. Betrayal is death. He knew the rules. He was 23 years old. He was a thief who made the mistake of running to my woman for help. Dante's hand shot out, gripping my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. Did you give him money, Emma? The question hung between us like a blade. Answer me. $500. The confession felt like swallowing glass. It was all I had in cash. I told him to run, to get as far away as possible. Dante's jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath the skin. You helped him. I didn't know the whole story. I couldn't let him die. So instead, you made yourself complicit. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, the gesture almost tender, except for the fury in his eyes. Do you have any idea what my enemies would do if they knew Dante Moretti's woman was helping thieves escape justice? I'm not your woman. His laugh was harsh. You're carrying my child. You wear the marks I put on your skin. You smell like me even now, 3 months later, because your body remembers who it belongs to. His other hand moved to my throat, not squeezing, just resting there like a promise. You are mine, Emma. You've always been mine. You're insane. About you? Yes. He released me suddenly, stepping back, and the absence of his touch felt like a loss I refused to acknowledge. Take off your sweater. We did this already. Now. The command in his voice bypassed every rational thought. My hands moved to the hem, trembling, hating myself for the obedience coded into my muscles. I pulled the oversized sweater over my head, standing before him in my worn tank top and the cheap maternity jeans I'd bought at a thrift store. Dante's eyes traveled over my body with an intensity that made my skin burn. The tank top clung to the small bump, undeniable proof of what we'd created together. Dio mio, he breathed, moving forward again. You're showing. That's what happens when you're pregnant. His hands settled on my hips, thumbs brushing the exposed skin where my tank top had ridden up. You should have been here, in our home, with doctors, with everything you needed. I had everything I needed, in a roach-infested apartment in Brooklyn. His voice dripped contempt. Working yourself to exhaustion in that hellhole? Eating God knows what because you couldn't afford proper nutrition? How do you know where I lived? I know everything, Tesoro. The moment I found you tonight, I had your apartment searched. 1 room, a mattress on the floor, ramen noodles and crackers in the cupboard. His grip tightened. You were starving yourself, starving my child. I was surviving. You were suffering. He pulled me closer, his forehead nearly touching mine. And you were doing it alone because you believed I was a monster who would kill the mother of his child. Aren't you? The question seemed to strike something deep. Dante's hands moved from my hips to my face, cradling it with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. I have killed men for looking at you wrong, he said softly. I have burned buildings, ended bloodlines, destroyed lives for lesser offenses than what you've done. But you, Emma, you are the only thing in this world I cannot harm, even when you rip my heart from my chest and run away with it. His words shouldn't have affected me. They were pretty lies wrapped in violence, manipulation disguised as devotion, but my traitorous heart stuttered anyway. Remembering the man who'd traced constellations on my skin, who'd whispered promises in Italian while the city slipped around us. The baby kicked. I don't know why I told him. Maybe because his hands were warm against my face, or because I was so tired of carrying this alone. His expression transformed when, just now, in the car too, Dante dropped to his knees before I could process what was happening. His hands spread across my stomach, fingers splaying wide as if he could feel every flutter, every tiny movement. Here? He pressed gently, a little lower. He adjusted, his ear nearly against my belly, and the sight of this dangerous man kneeling before me, worshipping the life we'd created, cracked something in my chest. Piccolo, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion I'd never heard from him before. Your papa is here now. I'll never let anyone hurt you, or your mama, even when she's stubborn and foolish. I can hear you. Good. He looked up at me, still on his knees, still touching me like I was something precious instead of a prisoner. You need to understand something, Emma. I'm not the villain in this story. I'm the man who would tear the world apart to keep you safe. You're the man who kills people. Yes. No denial, no justification. I am. But never you. Never our child. He stood slowly, his hands never leaving my body. What happened to Tommy was justice. What happens to you is mercy. Mercy looks a lot like captivity. Call it what you want. He guided me to the sofa, sat me down with careful hands. You're not leaving again. Not tonight. Not ever. This penthouse is your home. My men will be stationed at every exit. You'll have everything you need. Doctors, clothes, food, whatever the baby requires. And if I refuse, Dante crouched before me, his hands on my knees, then you'll refuse from the safety of this penthouse. I won't chain you, amore. I won't lock you in. But make no mistake, you are mine, and I protect what's mine with everything I have." A knock at the door interrupted whatever I might have said. Marco entered, his scarred face impassive. "The apartment has been cleared. Her belongings are being brought up." "Her belongings?" Dante's lip curled. What little she had. "There's something else." Marco's eyes flicked to me, then back to Dante. "We found a burner phone. Recent calls to a number in New Jersey." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Who?" Dante's voice was deceptively calm. "Still tracing it, but, boss—" Marco hesitated. "The call duration suggests more than just check-ins." Dante stood slowly, his entire demeanor shifting from tender to lethal. "Emma, who have you been calling?" My mouth went dry. "No one." "Don't lie to me." Each word was clipped, precise. "Not after everything. Who have you been calling?" "My sister." The truth tumbled out. "Just my sister, to let her know I was alive." "Your sister who lives in Ohio. She was visiting family in New Jersey. I called her once a week, that's all." Dante's jaw clenched. "What did you tell her?" "That I was safe, that I couldn't come home yet." "Did you tell her about the baby?" I hesitated a second too long. "Merda." He spun away, his hand raking through his hair. "Who else knows?" "Just her, I swear. Your sister, who talks to your mother, who talks to her friends, who talked to—" He cut himself off, his hands gripping the mantle of the fireplace so hard his knuckles went white. "Do you understand what you've done? If my enemies discover you're pregnant, discover there's an heir they can target—" "I was careful. Careful." He whirled on me. "You were reckless, stupid. You put yourself and our child at risk because you couldn't bear to let your family think you were dead. They deserve to know I'm alive. They deserve to bury an empty casket if it keeps you safe." The roar echoed off the walls, raw and terrible. Silence fell between us, heavy with his rage and my defiance. When he spoke again, his voice was controlled, but I heard the violence beneath it. "Marco, find out everyone she contacted, everyone who knows she's alive, pregnant, or in this city. I want names by morning. Boss, and double the security detail. No one in or out without my personal approval." Marco nodded and left, closing the door with a soft click. Dante turned back to me, and for the first time since he'd found me, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. "You don't understand the world I live in," he said quietly. "The enemies I've made. There are men who would cut our child from your womb just to hurt me. Women who would poison your food because they want my name, my power, my empire. And you called your sister from a traceable phone." "I didn't know. You should have." He moved to the window, staring out at the city he ruled. "But you didn't, because I never told you the whole truth. I kept you separate from the worst of it, tried to give you a normal life while I built my kingdom on blood and bones." The admission hung in the air between us. "Starting tomorrow, that changes," he continued. "You'll learn everything. The families, the territories, the threats. You'll know who to trust, no one except me, and who would kill you for sport. You'll understand why I can't let you go. And if I still want to leave," he turned to face me, his expression carved from granite. "Then you'll want it from behind bulletproof glass, with armed guards, under 24-hour surveillance, because I will not, cannot, lose you again." The baby kicked hard, as if protesting the tension filling the room. Dante saw me press my hand against the spot and crossed to me in 3 strides. "Pain?" "No. Just active." His hand covered mine, and we stood there in the firelight, connected by the life between us and the violence surrounding us. "I'm going to be a father," he said, wonder creeping into his voice. "Me. Dante Moretti, who never wanted attachments, never wanted weakness, and now I have both in abundance." "Is that what I am? Weakness?" "You're everything." His free hand cupped my face. "My strength and my weakness, my heaven and my hell, the only person who could destroy me, and the only person I would let." He kissed me then, and I hated that I kissed him back. Hated that my body remembered his, hated that 3 months of freedom dissolved the moment his mouth claimed mine. When he pulled away, his thumb traced my swollen lips. "Welcome home, amore mio," he whispered. Our real life starts now. Morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows like an interrogation lamp, harsh and unforgiving. I woke in Dante's bed, our bed, as he'd corrected me last night, wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets that probably cost more than my entire 3 months of rent in Brooklyn. The mattress remembered my shape. The pillows still held the faint scent of my old perfume, the one Dante had bought me from a boutique in Paris. Everything here remembered me, even when I'd tried so hard to forget. The space beside me was empty, but still warm. I pressed my palm against the indentation where Dante's body had been, feeling the heat seep into my skin. He'd held me all night, his hand possessive on my belly, his breath warm against my neck. Every time I'd shifted, trying to put distance between us, he'd pulled me closer, murmuring Italian words I pretended not to understand. Mia. Sempre mia. Non ti lascerò mai andare. Mean. Always mine. I'll never let you go. A soft knock preceded the door opening. A woman I didn't recognize entered carrying a tray, mid-40s, elegant in a way that spoke of old money and older discretion. Her eyes swept over me with clinical efficiency. Good morning, Miss Pierce. I'm Dr. Castellano. Mr. Moretti asked me to examine you and the baby. I sat up, clutching the sheet to my chest despite being fully clothed in the silk pajamas that had appeared on the bed last night. I don't need an examination. With respect, you haven't had prenatal care in 3 months. She set the tray on the bedside table. Fresh fruit, yogurt, vitamins arranged like an offering. Mr. Moretti is concerned. Mr. Moretti can be concerned somewhere else. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. I've worked with the Moretti family for 15 years. I know when to push and when to listen. She pulled a portable ultrasound machine from a bag I hadn't noticed. This isn't about him. It's about your baby. Let me make sure everything is progressing normally. The word your, instead of his, softened something in me. I lay back against the pillows, lifting the silk top to expose my belly. Dr. Castellano's hands were warm, professional. She squeezed gel onto my skin, and the cold made me flinch. This will just take a moment. The ultrasound wand pressed against me, and suddenly, the room filled with sound. A rapid whooshing that took me a second to recognize. The baby's heartbeat. Strong and steady, Dr. Castellano said, adjusting the wand. Do you want to see? I shouldn't have. Looking would make it real, would make it harder to think about escape, about survival, about anything except the life growing inside me that was half me and half monster. But I nodded anyway. She turned the screen toward me, and there it was. A tiny form, fully shaped now, moving in the grainy black and white. Arms, legs, the curve of a spine. A hand moved to what might have been a mouth. Oh my God, I breathed. 13 weeks along, give or take a few days, the doctor confirmed. Everything looks perfect. Heart rate is excellent. Measurements are right on track. She paused. Though I can tell you've lost weight. When was the last time you had a proper meal? I ate. Ramen noodles and crackers aren't proper nutrition for a growing baby. She wiped the gel from my stomach with gentle efficiency. Mr. Moretti has arranged for a nutritionist to plan your meals. You'll also need to take these. She indicated the vitamins on the tray. Prenatal, iron, and omega-3s. Non-negotiable. Everything seems to be non-negotiable around here. Dr. Castellano's expression softened. He's terrified, you know, trying to control everything he can, because he can't control the fact that you ran, that he almost lost you both. She packed up her equipment. I'm not defending him, but in 15 years, I've never seen Dante Moretti afraid of anything until yesterday. She left before I could respond, the door clicking shut with wealthy discretion. I stared at the tray of food, at the vitamins lined up like tiny soldiers, at the evidence of Dante's control extending even to what I put in my body. But my hand moved to my stomach, to where the baby had been visible on the screen, and I knew I'd take the vitamins, eat the food, do whatever it took to keep that tiny heartbeat strong, even if it meant surrendering to the man who held us both captive. The bedroom door opened again. This time, Dante filled the frame, dressed in charcoal gray suit that transformed him from the man who'd held me in the night to the kingpin who ruled the city below. His eyes found me immediately, cataloging my position in his bed, the tray of untouched food, the vitamins still in their neat row. Dr. Castellano says the baby is healthy. He moved into the room with that predatory grace, loosening his tie, but that you're malnourished. Good morning to you too. Eat, Emma. He gestured to the tray. Or I'll feed you myself. That's not necessary. He sat on the edge of the bed, picked up the bowl of yogurt and fruit, and held a spoonful to my lips. Open. Dante? I said open. The command in his voice made my jaw unlock automatically. The yogurt was perfect. Greek, honey-sweetened with fresh berries that burst flavor across my tongue. I chewed, swallowed, and glared at him. There. Happy, ecstatic. He fed me another spoonful. You'll eat 3 meals a day plus snacks. Dr. Castellano will monitor your weight gain. If you refuse, I'll have nutrients delivered intravenously. That's insane. That's fatherhood. Another spoonful. I'm responsible for the life inside you. I take that responsibility seriously. I wanted to argue, to fight, to refuse the care being forced on me. But the baby kicked, a gentle flutter, and I found myself opening my mouth for the next bite. We fell into a rhythm. He fed me, I ate, and the morning sun painted us both in shades of gold that made the scene almost domestic, almost normal, almost like we were a real couple preparing for a real baby instead of a captor and his prisoner bound by biology and obsession. I have meetings today, Dante said, setting the empty bowl aside. Marco will stay with you. Luca will be stationed outside the penthouse. There are 12 men on rotation throughout the building. That seems excessive. That seems necessary. His hand moved to my belly, possessive and gentle. After what you told me last night, about your sister knowing, I can't take chances. She won't tell anyone. She doesn't need to. One slip, one conversation overheard in the wrong place, and my enemies will know I have an heir on the way. His jaw tightened. The Calabrese family has been looking for weakness ever since I took over their territory in Queens. The Russians are still angry about the docks. And don't get me started on the Vitale family. They've wanted my blood since I refused to marry their daughter. Refused to... What? Dante's expression hardened. Arranged marriages are still common in our world. Alliances built on bloodlines and territory. Isabella Vitale was supposed to be my bride 3 years ago. What happened? I met you. Simple words that carried the weight of empires. I met you in that art gallery, wearing that blue dress, looking at paintings like they held the secrets of the universe, and I knew I'd never marry anyone else. The memory hit me like a physical blow. That gallery opening, the champagne, the way a stranger in an expensive suit had stood beside me and asked what I saw in a Jackson Pollock. I'd said chaos and beauty in equal measure. He'd said he saw himself. 3 months later, I'd moved into this penthouse. 6 months after that, I discovered I was pregnant and that the man I loved had killed my ex-boyfriend for stealing from him. That doesn't make this right, I said quietly, keeping me here against my will. You're right. It doesn't. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. But I'm not a good man, Emma. I never pretended to be. I'm a man who takes what he wants and destroys anyone who tries to take it from him. His eyes met mine, gray and unflinching. And I want you. I want our child. I want the family I never thought I'd have. Even if I don't want this, even then. He leaned down, pressed a kiss to my forehead. But I think you do want this, somewhere beneath the fear and the anger. You want this as much as I do. You just need to remember why you fell in love with me in the first place. I fell in love with a lie. No, Tesoro. You fell in love with the only real part of me I've ever shown anyone. He straightened, adjusting his cufflinks. Marco will bring you lunch at noon. Wear something comfortable. The nutritionist will be here at 2, followed by a personal shopper at 4. Your wardrobe needs updating for the pregnancy. I don't need... You need everything. He cut me off, his voice brooking no argument. And you'll have it. Clothes, furniture for the nursery, whatever your heart desires. The only thing you won't have is freedom. Not until I'm certain you're safe. He left before I could respond, the door closing with expensive finality. I sat in his bed, our bed, surrounded by luxury that felt like prison bars made of silk and gold, and tried not to think about how easily I'd opened my mouth for him, how naturally I'd let him feed me, touch me, claim me. The baby kicked again, stronger this time. "We're in trouble," I whispered to the small life inside me. So much trouble. The afternoon unfolded exactly as Dante had dictated. Marco appeared at noon with lunch: grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, quinoa, all arranged like art on bone china. He stood by the window while I ate, his scarred face impassive, but I caught him watching me with something that might have been sympathy. "How long have you worked for him?" I asked, more to break the silence than out of genuine curiosity. 12 years. Marco's voice was surprisingly gentle for a man who looked like he'd been carved from violence. "Since we were kids, really. He saved my life. I owe him everything. Even helping him keep me prisoner?" "You're not a prisoner, Miss Pierce. You're protected." Semantics. Marco's lips twitched. "Mr. Moretti has enemies who would gut you just to watch him suffer. Keeping you here isn't cruelty. It's survival. And if I want to leave anyway," his expression hardened, "then I'd stop you. Not because I want to, but because I won't watch another person he loves die on my watch." The words hung heavy between us. Another person he loves. Who did he lose? Marco's jaw tightened. "That's not my story to tell." He gestured to my half-eaten lunch. "Finish your food. The nutritionist will want to see what you've been eating." I picked at the salmon, my appetite gone. The nutritionist arrived precisely at 2, a stern woman named Maria, who cataloged my diet with increasing horror and prescribed a meal plan that would have fed a small army. Then came the personal shopper, arms loaded with garment bags and shoe boxes, transforming the bedroom into a boutique. "Mr. Moretti specified comfort and elegance," she said, "hanging dresses I'd never wear, arranging shoes I'd never walk in. Everything is adjustable for the pregnancy. He wants you to feel beautiful. He wants me to feel owned." She paused, a cashmere sweater in her hands, and met my eyes. "In my experience, Miss Pierce, men like Dante Moretti don't go to this much trouble for possessions. They go to this much trouble for obsessions." She smiled. "And obsession, in the right hands, can look a lot like love." After she left, I stood in front of the mirror, wearing one of the new dresses, soft dove gray, empire waist, probably worth more than I used to make in a month. The woman staring back at me looked like someone I used to know, someone who belonged in this world of wealth and danger, someone who was falling back under Dante Moretti's spell. The penthouse door opened. I heard voices. Dante's low rumble, another man's nervous tenor. Footsteps approached the bedroom. Dante appeared in the doorway, his tie loosened, his expression carved from stone. "We have a problem." My heart stopped. "What kind of problem?" "The kind that involves your ex-boyfriend." He moved into the room, and I saw Luca behind him, holding a tablet. Tommy wasn't working alone when he stole from me. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "What?" "Show her." Dante gestured to Luca, who brought the tablet forward. Security footage played on the screen. Grainy, black and white, but clear enough. Tommy, alive and moving, in what looked like a warehouse. But he wasn't alone. A woman stood beside him, her face partially obscured by shadow. Dante's finger tapped the screen, zooming in. My blood turned to ice. The woman was me. Except it wasn't. Not really. Someone who looked like me, moved like me. But I'd never been in that warehouse. Had never... "This was taken 4 months ago," Dante said, his voice deadly calm. 2 weeks before you told me you were pregnant. 3 weeks before Tommy died. That's not me. I know. His hand gripped my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes, because you were with me that night. I remember. We went to the opera, came home, made love until dawn. His thumb brushed my cheekbone, but someone wanted me to think it was you. Someone set you up. The implications crashed over me like a wave. Who? That's what I'm going to find out. He released me, his expression shifting from tender to lethal. But first, I need to know. Did Tommy ever mention anyone? A partner? A friend? Someone who might have wanted to frame you? I tried to think past the panic. He mentioned a girl once. Said she was helping him with a business opportunity. I thought he meant drugs or something stupid. I didn't... What did she look like? I never met her. He just said, I closed my eyes, trying to remember. He said she looked like an angel but fought like the devil, that she was going to change everything. Dante and Luca exchanged glances. Isabella. Luca said quietly. Isabella Vitale? My voice cracked. The woman you were supposed to marry? Dante's expression was answer enough. She's been trying to destroy you from the inside, Luca continued. Used Tommy to steal money, made it look like Emma was involved, probably hoping you'd kill her, Dante finished, his voice hollow. She was betting I'd kill Emma for betrayal, clearing the way for our families to merge through marriage after all. The room spun. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, my hand pressed against my belly. But you didn't. You didn't kill me. No. Dante crouched before me, his hands covering mine. I couldn't. Even thinking you'd betrayed me, even with the evidence, I couldn't do it. That's when I knew. Knew what? That I'd rather rule nothing with you than everything without you, his forehead pressed against mine. So, I killed Tommy instead, made it look like justice for the theft. When really, I was protecting you from a truth I thought would destroy us both. Tears burned behind my eyes. You should have told me. I know. I ran because I thought you were a monster. I am a monster, Amore. Just not to you. Never to you. And Isabella? His expression went cold. We'll learn that some prices are paid in blood. The war room was everything I'd imagined and nothing I'd prepared for. Deep in the bowels of the penthouse, accessed through a hidden elevator behind Dante's study, it sprawled like the nerve center of an empire built on violence and fear. Screens covered one wall, showing feeds from across the city. Warehouses, docks, restaurants that served as fronts for money laundering. A massive table dominated the center, scattered with maps marked in red and black, territories carved up like a butcher's diagram. Dante had brought me here at dawn, his hand protective on my lower back as we descended into his true kingdom. I want you to see everything, he'd said, his voice rough from a sleepless night spent planning Isabella Vitale's destruction. No more secrets. No more lies. You need to understand the world our child will inherit. Now I stood beside him as men filtered in, his captains, his soldiers, the infrastructure that kept the Moretti Empire running while the city slept above us. They eyed me with curiosity and barely concealed skepticism. A pregnant woman in their sacred space, the boss's obvious weakness on display. Marco arrived last, closing the door with a heavy thud that sounded like a coffin lid. Gentlemen, Dante's voice cut through the murmurs, commanding instant silence. Some of you know Emma. For those who don't, she's mine, the mother of my heir. And she stays for this meeting because what we discuss affects her directly. No one argued. No one would dare. Luca stepped forward, pulling up footage on the main screen. We've tracked Isabella's movements for the past 6 months. She's been building her own network, skimming from her father's operations to fund it. The warehouse where she met with Tommy Martinez is one of 12 properties she controls through shell companies. 12. Dante's voice was ice, right under Salvatore Vitale's nose. Her father doesn't know, Marco confirmed. Or he's pretending not to. Either way, Isabella's been playing a long game. Tommy Martinez was just one piece. We've identified 4 other men she recruited. All small time, all desperate enough to steal from you. The screen shifted, showing faces I didn't recognize. Young men, hungry looking, the kind who saw crime as their only ladder out of poverty. Where are they now? Dante asked. 2 are dead. 1 disappeared 3 weeks ago. We're still looking. The last one? Luca paused. Turned up at St. Vincent's Hospital yesterday with his throat cut. He lived long enough to talk. And? He confirmed Isabella orchestrated the entire operation, used a look-alike to frame Emma, planned to present the evidence to you after Tommy was dead, make it look like Emma was the mastermind. Luca's expression hardened. She wanted you to kill Emma yourself. Figured grief and rage would make you sloppy, easy to manipulate into the marriage your families arranged. My stomach churned. I pressed my hand against the small swell of my belly, feeling the baby shift inside me. This woman, this stranger who looked like an angel, had tried to have me murdered by the man I loved. She underestimated you, I said quietly. Dante's hand found mine, fingers lacing together. She underestimated us. He turned back to his men. I want every property she owns burned to the ground, every account frozen, every man who worked for her brought to me alive. And Isabella? Marco asked. Untouched. For now. Dante's smile was terrible. I want her to watch everything she built turn to ash. Then I'll deal with her personally. Her father will retaliate, one of the captains warned. Salvatore Vitale won't let you destroy his daughter without consequences. Then he should have raised her better. Dante's voice was final. Meeting adjourned. I want updates every 6 hours. The men filed out, leaving us alone in the room full of screens and secrets. I stared at the maps, at the territories marked in Dante's color, and tried to reconcile the man who'd fed me yogurt this morning with the one who'd just ordered an empire's worth of destruction. Say it. Dante's voice came from behind me. Whatever you're thinking. I'm thinking that this is your world. Violence and revenge and blood. I turned to face him, and I'm thinking our baby will grow up in it. Yes. No apology, no justification. But our baby will grow up protected, loved, with everything I never had. What didn't you have? He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. My father was weak. Let other families push him around, take what was ours, disrespect our name. I watched him drink himself to death because he couldn't handle the weight of what he'd inherited. His jaw tightened. I was 15 when I took over. 15 years old. And I had to prove I was strong enough to lead, ruthless enough to keep what was mine. How did you prove it? I killed the man who killed my father. Simple words, delivered without emotion. Hung him from the Brooklyn Bridge as a message. The Moretti family doesn't forgive, doesn't forget, doesn't show weakness. That's a lot of pressure for a 15-year-old. That's survival. He moved closer, his hands settling on my hips. But with you, Emma, I'm not that scared kid anymore. I'm not fighting to prove myself. I'm fighting to protect what I love, by burning down Isabella's empire. By eliminating threats. His thumbs traced circles on my hip bones. She tried to take you from me, tried to trick me into killing you. There's no punishment severe enough for that crime. The baby kicked, hard enough that Dante felt it. His expression transformed, the killer disappearing, replaced by wonder. Fort, he murmured, strong, like their mother, or stubborn, like their father. He smiled. A real smile, the kind I'd fallen in love with in that art gallery. We're going to be terrible parents. Probably. I found myself smiling back. But at least the baby will never doubt we'd burn the world down for them. Never. He pulled me closer, his forehead resting against mine. I need you to trust me, Emma. I need you to believe that everything I do to keep you safe. Even holding me prisoner? Especially that. His lips brushed mine, soft and devastating, because losing you would destroy me. And a destroyed Dante Moretti is dangerous for everyone. The kiss deepened, and I let it. Let myself remember why I'd loved him despite the violence, despite the danger. His hands were gentle on my body, reverent, worshipping the changes pregnancy had brought. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Come upstairs, he said against my mouth. Let me show you the nursery. You built a nursery? I had it built 3 months ago. The day you left, I knew I'd find you. Knew I'd bring you home. He took my hand, leading me toward the elevator. I've been preparing for our child since the moment you disappeared. The nursery took my breath away. Soft sage-green walls, hand-painted with a forest scene that looked like something from a fairy tale. A crib made of dark wood, clearly custom, with linens so soft they felt like clouds. A rocking chair by the window, positioned to catch the morning light. Shelves already lined with books, toys, stuffed animals that probably cost more than my entire childhood, but it was the mural that destroyed me. Painted above the crib, a mother and father stood in a clearing, holding a small child between them. The father was dark-haired, strong-featured. The mother had honey-blonde hair and delicate features. The child was just a shadow, waiting to be filled in with reality. You painted me, I whispered, before you found me. How did you know I'd come back? Because you're mine. Dante stood behind me, his arms circling my waist, his hands splayed across my belly. Because this child is ours. Because some things are inevitable, amore. Like gravity, like breathing, like us. I turned in his arms, looking up at this man who'd terrorized a city to find me, who'd built a nursery for a child he'd never seen, who killed without hesitation, but touched me like I was made of porcelain. I'm still angry with you. I know. I still don't trust you completely. I'll earn it back. His hand cupped my face, however long it takes, and if Isabella comes for us, she won't get the chance. His voice dropped, cold and final. Tonight her world ends. Tomorrow ours begins. Night fell over Manhattan like a velvet curtain, and I watched from the penthouse windows as Dante's empire went to work. My phone, a new one, untraceable, that Dante had given me, buzzed with updates from Luca, warehouse on Pier 47, secured. Brooklyn location, cleared. Assets frozen. Each message was another piece of Isabella's kingdom crumbling. I should have felt guilty, watching a woman's life's work dissolve. Instead, I felt safe, protected. Because this woman had wanted me dead, had manipulated events to put a target on my back, and Dante was erasing her like she'd never existed. You should rest. Marco appeared with a tray, herbal tea, crackers, fruit. The evening snack Dr. Castellano had prescribed. It's going to be a long night. Where's Dante? Handling the final location personally. Marco set the tray down, his expression carefully neutral. He wanted to be there when they brought Isabella in. My blood chilled. Brought her in where? Here, to the penthouse. Marco's eyes met mine. He wants you to see what happens to people who threaten his family. I don't want to see that. With respect, Miss Pierce, you need to. He gestured to the windows, to the city sprawling below. This is the world you're part of now. The world your child will inherit. Better to understand it with your eyes open than to live in denial. He left me alone with those words and the tea I couldn't drink. An hour later, the elevator chimed. Voices filled the foyer. Dante's calm authority, Luca's efficiency, and a woman's voice, sharp with fury and fear. You can't do this. My father. Your father disowned you an hour ago. Dante's voice carried no emotion. When I showed him the evidence of your embezzling, of your failed assassination attempt, of every law you broke building your pathetic little empire, he called you a disgrace to the Vitale name. You're lying. Am I? Call him yourself. Silence. Then the sound of a phone dialing, ringing, going to voicemail. Papa, please. Isabella's voice cracked. Papa, it's me. Please pick up. Please. He's not going to save you. Dante again, closer now. No one is. Footsteps approached the living room. I stood frozen by the window, my hand pressed against my belly, as Dante entered with Isabella Vitale in tow. She was beautiful. That was the first shock. Delicate features, dark hair cascading over her shoulders, eyes like midnight. She wore designer clothes even in defeat, held herself with the pride of old money and older bloodlines, but when her eyes found me, that beauty twisted into something ugly. You, she hissed. You're the reason for all of this. No. Dante's hand settled on my shoulder, possessive and protective. You're the reason. You made the choice to steal, to frame, to attempt murder. Emma is simply the consequence of your failure. Isabella's gaze dropped to my belly, and I saw the moment she understood. You're pregnant. With my heir. Dante's voice held unmistakable pride. The child you tried to prevent by having their mother killed. I would have given you heirs. Isabella's composure cracked. Strong sons from two powerful families. Children who would have united our empires. Instead you chose her. A nobody. An outsider who doesn't understand our world. She understands love. Dante pulled me closer. Something you've never comprehended. Isabella laughed, bitter and sharp. Love? You think love matters in our world? Power matters. Blood matters. Legacy matters. That baby she's carrying will make you weak, Dante. Your enemies will use it against you. Let them try. His voice dropped to a whisper, and they'll learn what happens when someone threatens my family. He gestured to Marco, who stepped forward with a tablet. Show her. The screen displayed financial records, properties, accounts. Everything Isabella had built, now systematically destroyed. Each asset seized, each connection severed, each ally turned away. "You have nothing," Dante said simply. "No money, no properties, no family. You're a ghost in a world you tried to rule. You can't. My father will." "Your father signed the papers himself." Marco showed her the documents. "He's disowned you, Isabella. You're no longer a Vitale. You're nothing." I watched her face crumble, watched the realization of total defeat sink in. Part of me felt pity, a small part. The rest remembered that this woman had wanted me dead, had manipulated events to make the man I loved into my executioner. "What happens now?" Isabella's voice was barely a whisper. "Now?" Dante considered. "You leave New York, tonight. Luca will escort you to the airport. You have a one-way ticket to Rome and enough money for 6 months. After that, you're on your own. You're letting me live?" Shock colored her features. "I'm letting you exist." Dante's correction was deliberate, because killing you would start a war I don't need. "But make no mistake, if you ever set foot in this city again, if you ever come near my family, if you even speak Emma's name, I won't be merciful twice." Isabella's eyes found mine one last time. "He'll get tired of you," she said, venom in every word. "Men like Dante Moretti don't stay faithful, don't stay satisfied. Give him a year, maybe 2, and he'll be looking for something new, something better. That's the difference between you and me." I kept my voice steady, channeling strength I wasn't sure I possessed. "You see him as a prize to be won. I see him as a man to be loved. And love doesn't expire when things get difficult." Dante's hand tightened on my shoulder. "Get her out of here," he told Luca. "I don't want to see her face again." They escorted Isabella to the elevator, her designer heels clicking against marble like a countdown. When the doors closed on her furious, defeated expression, the penthouse fell silent. Dante turned me in his arms, his hands framing my face. "You defended me," he said. Wonder in his voice. "You defended me first." I pressed my palm against his chest, feeling his heartbeat race beneath expensive fabric. 3 months ago, when you couldn't bring yourself to believe I'd betrayed you, you chose love over evidence, over logic. I chose you. He kissed me softly. "I'll always choose you." The baby kicked between us and we both smiled. "Come to bed, amore," Dante murmured against my mouth. "Let me show you what forever looks like." 6 months later, the first snow of winter fell over Manhattan like a benediction. I stood at the nursery window, my hand resting on the swell of my belly. Massive now, heavy with the life ready to enter the world any day. Behind me, Dante assembled a crib mobile, cursing softly in Italian when the pieces refused to cooperate. The sight of the city's most feared crime lord struggling with baby furniture made me smile despite the Braxton Hicks contractions that had been plaguing me all morning. "You could ask Marco to do that," I said, watching his reflection in the window. "Marco doesn't get to build our son's first mobile." Dante's voice held absolute conviction. "That honor is mine. Our son." The ultrasound at 20 weeks had confirmed what Dante had somehow known from the beginning. A boy with his father's strong heartbeat, and his mother's stubborn refusal to cooperate during measurements. Dr. Castellano had laughed when the baby kept turning away from the scanner, hiding his face like he already understood the value of privacy in the Moretti world. We'd named him Alessandro, after Dante's grandfather, the one good man in a family tree full of violence. "How are you feeling?" Dante abandoned the mobile, crossing to me with those careful steps he'd adopted once my center of gravity shifted. His hands settled on my hips, supporting weight I could no longer carry alone. Like I'm smuggling a bowling ball, I leaned back against his chest. "Dr. Castellano says any day now." "Good." His palms spread across my belly, and Alessandro responded immediately, pushing against his father's touch. "I'm ready to meet him, ready to hold him, ready to start our real life." Our real life had already begun, though neither of us had noticed exactly when. Maybe it was the night Isabella left, when Dante had carried me to bed and made love to me like I was something precious he'd almost lost. Maybe it was the morning I'd woken to find him reading pregnancy books, taking notes in the margins with the same intensity he brought to business dealings. Or maybe it was the afternoon I'd attended my first family meeting, 8 months pregnant and unafraid, and watched hardened criminals defer to the woman carrying the Moretti air. The shift had been gradual, like seasons changing. My anger had softened into understanding. His possessiveness had evolved into partnership. We'd learned to navigate the violence of his world and the vulnerability of mine, finding balance in the space between. I'd stopped thinking about escape 3 months ago. Now I thought about home. Your mother called again, I said, watching the snow accumulate on the windowsill. She wants to visit after the baby comes. Dante tensed. His relationship with his mother was complicated. She'd remarried after his father's death, moved to Florida, built a life separate from the empire her son controlled. They spoke rarely, and never about the business that had consumed her first husband. What did you tell her? That she's welcome whenever she wants to come. I turned in his arms, meeting those gray eyes that still made my heart stutter. Alessandro should know his grandmother, both of them. My own mother had visited twice, her initial horror at my situation giving way to grudging acceptance when she saw how Dante treated me, like a queen, like the center of his universe, like everything he'd never known he wanted until I'd stumbled into his gallery and changed his world. You're too forgiving, Dante murmured, his thumb tracing the curve of my jaw. I'm practical, I corrected. Our son deserves a family, Dante. Not just soldiers and business associates, real family. People who love him without agenda. He'll have you. Dante's hand moved to my belly again. That's more than I ever had. The raw honesty in his voice still surprised me sometimes. 6 months of living together without the option of running had stripped away the walls between us. We'd fought, God, how we'd fought, about his overprotectiveness, my stubbornness, the future we were building on a foundation of blood and money. But we'd also laughed, made love, planned for a child who would inherit both our strengths and our flaws. He'll have both of us, I said firmly. You're going to be an amazing father. I'm going to be a terrified father, he admitted. What if I'm too much like my old man? What if I push Alessandro into this life when he deserves better? Then I'll be there to remind you that love is stronger than legacy. I pressed my palm against his chest, feeling his heartbeat race. And Alessandro will choose his own path, Dante. We'll make sure of it. A contraction hit, stronger than before. I gasped, gripping Dante's arms for support. His expression transformed instantly. Emma, what's wrong? Nothing. Just another contraction. Harder, lower. Oh, what does "oh" mean? Panic crept into his voice. It means... I looked down at the puddle forming at my feet, at the wetness soaking through my dress. It means your son has decided today is a good day to be born. For 3 seconds, Dante Moretti, the man who'd stared down rival bosses, who'd orchestrated the fall of empires, who feared nothing and no one, froze completely. Then he exploded into action. Marco! His voice thundered through the penthouse. Get the car! Now! Luca, call Dr. Castellano. Everyone else, move! Dante, calm down. Calm down? You're in labor. He swept me into his arms like I weighed nothing, cradling me against his chest. How far apart are the contractions? Did your water just break? Is the baby okay? Are you okay? I'm fine. The baby's fine. This is normal. Nothing about this is normal. He carried me toward the elevator, barking orders at the men who'd appeared from various corners of the penthouse. Someone grabbed the hospital bag. Where's the hospital bag? Emma, where did you put the hospital bag? In the nursery closet, where it's been for 3 weeks. 3 weeks and you didn't tell me to move it somewhere more accessible? He was actually arguing with me while I was in labor. Another contraction seized me and I buried my face in his neck, breathing through the pain. His cologne, that same Tom Ford Noir that had given him away in the diner, grounded me, reminded me that despite the chaos, I was safe. The elevator ride felt endless. Marco waited in the underground garage with the SUV, engine running, door open. Dante settled me in the back seat with a gentleness that contradicted his obvious panic. Drive carefully but quickly, he ordered Marco. Every red light is optional. If anyone tries to pull us over, they're getting a new car. We're not stealing a police car, I managed between contractions. Watch me. The drive to Mount Sinai took 15 minutes that felt like hours. Dante held my hand the entire time, whispering promises and prayers in Italian, his usual composure completely shattered. When we pulled up to the emergency entrance, Dr. Castellano was already waiting with a wheelchair and a team of nurses. "Right on time," she said calmly, helping me into the chair. "How far apart are the contractions?" 4 minutes. I gasped as another one hit, maybe 3. First babies usually take longer, but let's get you checked. She wheeled me toward the elevators while Dante hovered, his hand never leaving my shoulder. The private suite he'd reserved months ago was ready, more like a luxury hotel room than a hospital, with soft lighting and comfortable furniture, and a view of the city that reminded me how far I'd come from that diner in Brooklyn. Dr. Castellano examined me with efficient professionalism. "You're at 6 centimeters. Moving fast for a first labor. We'll get you set up with an epidural if you want one." "Yes," I said immediately. "No." Dante looked horrified. "You want them to stick a needle in your spine?" "I want them to stop the pain. What if something goes wrong? What if—" Dr. Castellano fixed him with a look that had probably terrified medical students for decades. "Mr. Moretti, your job right now is to hold your wife's hand. Tell her she's doing great and stay out of my way. Can you handle that?" He opened his mouth to argue, saw my expression, and closed it again. "Yes, doctor." The epidural was heaven. The anesthesiologist, a calm woman who'd clearly dealt with panicking fathers before, administered it with barely a pinch. Within 20 minutes, the contractions dulled to manageable pressure. Dante sat beside my bed, holding my hand like it was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm handling this badly. You're handling this like a man who's terrified of losing what he loves." I squeezed his fingers. "It's actually kind of sweet." "Sweet." He laughed, rough and strained. "I've faced down men with guns and knives. I've negotiated with psychopaths and survived assassination attempts. But watching you in pain, Emma, it's destroying me. Then it's a good thing the hard part is almost over." It wasn't. Labor stretched into hours, contractions that registered on monitors but barely touched me thanks to the epidural. Dr. Castellano checking dilation with increasing frequency. Nurses coming and going, adjusting equipment, monitoring Alessandro's heartbeat, strong and steady, just like his father. Dante never left my side. Marco brought food that neither of us touched. Luca stood guard outside the door, turning away anyone who tried to enter without authorization. My mother called twice, and Dante handed me the phone both times, his expression soft when I talked to her about normal things, the weather, the nursery colors, how excited she was to meet her first grandchild. Around midnight, something changed. Dr. Castellano's expression shifted from routine to alert. His heart rate is dropping slightly with each contraction, not dangerously but enough to concern me. Dante went rigid. "What does that mean?" "It means we need to move things along." She looked at me. "You're at 10 centimeters. It's time to push." The next hour blurred into a haze of effort and exhaustion, pushing with contractions I couldn't feel, guided by Dr. Castellano's calm directions and Dante's whispered encouragement. The epidural had done its job too well. I couldn't feel anything below my waist, couldn't tell if I was making progress. "I can see his head," Dr. Castellano announced. "One more good push, Emma. One more, and you'll meet your son." I looked at Dante, at this man who'd torn apart a city to find me, who'd built a nursery before he knew if I'd ever return, who was crying now, actually crying, as our child prepared to enter the world. "Together," I whispered. "Together," he agreed, his lips against my forehead. "Always." I pushed with everything I had left. And then, a cry. Sharp, indignant, perfect. "It's a boy." Dr. Castellano lifted a squirming, angry infant into the light. A healthy, beautiful boy. They placed Alessandro on my chest, this tiny creature covered in vernix and fury, and the world stopped. He had Dante's dark hair, my nose and lungs that announced his displeasure at being evicted from his warm sanctuary. "Oh my God," I breathed, my hands cradling his small head. "Oh my God, Dante, look at him." Dante was looking. Staring, actually, like he'd never seen anything more miraculous. His hand reached out, trembling, to touch Alessandro's cheek. Our son turned toward the touch, mouth opening in instinctive search for food. "He knows you," I whispered. "Alessandro." Dante's voice broke on the name. "My son. My son." Dr. Castellano and her team worked around us, delivering the placenta, cleaning me up. But I barely noticed. All my attention was on the baby in my arms, and the man beside me who'd transformed from crime lord to father in a single heartbeat. After they'd cleaned Alessandro and done all the checks, perfect scores, healthy lungs, strong reflexes, a nurse helped me try nursing. He latched immediately, greedy and determined. "Just like his father," I said, exhausted and exhilarated. "Strong like his mother," Dante countered. He'd pulled a chair close to the bed, one hand on my shoulder, the other supporting Alessandro's back. "Emma, He stopped, swallowed hard. "I don't have words. For this. For you. For what you've given me. You gave me this too. I gave you fear and captivity and a life you never asked for. You gave me Alessandro. You gave me love, even when I didn't want it. Even when I ran from it. I leaned my head against his arm, feeling the steady warmth of him. You gave me home, Dante, real home. The kind that doesn't need walls or locks or guards, just us." He kissed me then, soft and reverent, while our son nursed between us. 3 days later, we brought Alessandro home to the penthouse. The nursery that had waited empty for months finally fulfilled its purpose. Dante changed his first diaper, badly, with Marco watching from the doorway and offering completely unhelpful advice. I nursed Alessandro in the rocking chair while snow continued to fall outside the windows. Our son slept in the custom crib, his small chest rising and falling with the rhythm of new life. That first night home, Alessandro woke every 2 hours, crying with the indignation of someone who'd been promised luxury and received hunger instead. Dante brought him to me each time, then sat beside us while I fed our son, his hand gentle on Alessandro's dark hair. "Thank you," he said during the 3 a.m. feeding. "For running, for being caught, for giving me a reason to be better than I was. You were always better than you thought." "No." He met my eyes in the dim nursery light. "I was a monster playing at being human. But you, Emma, you made the playing real. You made me want to be the man you saw when you looked at me in that gallery." "I saw you," I said simply. "The real you. The one who reads poetry and loves art and cries when his son is born. The one who would still burn the world for you." "I know," I smiled. "But now you have 2 people to burn it for." Alessandro finished nursing and promptly spit up on Dante's expensive silk pajamas. Instead of flinching, my dangerous, violent, beautiful man simply laughed and wiped his son's mouth with tender care. "Welcome to fatherhood," I said. "Welcome home," he countered, kissing both of us. "To all of us." Spring came to Manhattan with cherry blossoms and longer days. Alessandro was 3 months old, growing strong and alert, tracking his father's movements with eyes that were turning from newborn blue to Moretti gray. I'd lost most of the pregnancy weight, gained a few scars from motherhood, and discovered a strength I'd never known I possessed. The penthouse had transformed into something new, still luxurious, still protected, but softer now. Baby toys scattered across expensive rugs. A swing in the living room that played lullabies. Bottles sterilizing in the kitchen where Dante's chef prepared both gourmet meals and simple purees for when Alessandro started solids. I stood on the balcony, Alessandro in my arms, watching the city wake up below us. Dante's arms encircled us both from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I was wrong." I leaned back against him. "In the diner, when you found me, I thought I was being recaptured, dragged back to a prison. And now? Now I know the difference between being held captive and being held close." I turned my head to kiss him. "You never imprisoned me, Dante. You just loved me so fiercely, I mistook devotion for possession. Maybe it's both." His hand covered mine on Alessandro's back. "Maybe I do possess you, and you possess me, and that's what love is, belonging so completely to someone that freedom looks like loneliness." Alessandro cooed, waving his small fist at the morning sun. Our son is going to grow up thinking this is normal, I said. Penthouse views and bodyguards and a father who controls half the city. Our son is going to grow up knowing he's loved. Dante's correction was firm. Everything else is just details. Marco appeared in the doorway, holding a tablet. Boss, the shipment from Rotterdam arrived. You wanted to know immediately. Dante tensed slightly, business calling even on a peaceful morning. But then he looked at Alessandro, at me, and shook his head. It can wait an hour. His arms tightened around us. Tell them I'm busy. Marco's scarred face split into something that might have been a smile. Yes, boss. He left us alone on the balcony, a family built from violence and fear and love that refused to die even when I'd run from it. I never thought I'd have this, Dante whispered, his voice thick with emotion. A family. A son. A woman who loves me despite knowing exactly who I am. I love you because of who you are. I turned in his arms, Alessandro between us. The good and the bad. The monster and the man. All of it. He kissed me then, deep and slow, while our son made happy noises between us and the city stretched out below. His kingdom. My home. Our future. When we finally pulled apart, Dante rested his forehead against mine. Welcome home, Emma Moretti, he said. And this time, I didn't correct him about the name I'd never officially taken, but had claimed nonetheless. Because he was right. I was home. We were home. And nothing, not fear, not doubt, not the violence of his world or the innocence I'd lost, could change that now. Alessandro yawned, tiny and perfect, and we both laughed. Come on, I said, heading back inside. Your son needs a nap, and his father needs to learn how to run an empire on 4 hours of sleep. I can function on 2, Dante said, following us. I've done it before. That was before you had a 3-month-old who thinks 3 a.m. is party time. He's establishing dominance early. I respect that. I laughed, settling into the rocking chair while Dante dimmed the lights. Alessandro's eyes were already drooping, milk-drunk, and content. As I rocked our son to sleep, Dante stood by the window, watching the city, watching us, watching the life he'd fought so hard to claim. And in that moment, surrounded by soft light and the sound of our baby's breathing and the man who'd searched an entire city to find me, I finally understood. Love wasn't freedom. Love was choosing your cage and filling it with everything that mattered. The baby. The man. The future we'd build together on foundations of blood and tenderness in equal measure. Alessandro's breathing deepened into sleep. I carried him to his crib, laying him down with practiced care. Dante's hand found mine in the darkness, and together we stood over our son, watching him dream whatever infants dream, his small fists curled against his cheeks. You and the baby are mine, Dante had said that night in the diner, claiming us both. He'd been right. But what he hadn't known, what neither of us had known, was that we'd claimed him right back. And in the claiming, we'd all found home.